And there's your new moon. Who sees it? Who can spot it? Because NASA is going to tell you that the new moon is when the moon is dark completely and no light is in it. That, the black moon, is not the new moon. This is the new moon. You wait for first light, and that begins your new month. New moon, new month. First light, beginning. We have to return to the Aboriginal way. I wanted to film this one because it's a rare opportunity to show you the new moon with high visibility. A lot of the time, it takes too long for the first light to show up. So I wanted to make sure that because visibility is so high right now, this is a perfect time to capture it on camera again, which I've not done since my first video, my first stream. This is it, guys. Why do I say we have to return to the Aboriginal way? Because a lot of you who look like me have recently discovered that you are Indian, that you are actually indigenous to this land. And we've had a lot to say over the years. Listen, I was as Afrocentric as the rest of them back in the day. My whole upbringing was incredibly Afrocentric. I wasn't a hotep, and I didn't get a dashiki, but I did everything else. I was at the State of the Black Union. I followed all of those dudes. I caught Louis Farrakhan twice. I listen, and I still to this day have no problem with Louis Farrakhan. I respect that brother. I know some of the things he says are highly controversial, but listen, what I'm trying to say is, I used to be on that Afrocentric tip. Like myself, many of you may have been Afrocentric, or maybe not. Maybe you were never that deep into it. But what you did do, just as I did, we've come to discover our own roots just by doing genealogy. We find records. We find proof. Listen, my grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, grew up for part of her childhood on the reservation. Okay, and her father owned land in the Muskogee district, so I know what I'm talking about. Listen, finding out is great. Finding your roots, figuring all that out is great, but it's not enough. It's not enough to just know. Because you don't truly know if you don't practice. If you don't practice, then you haven't proven that you know anything. Real knowledge is empirical, not just intellectual. So we have to start acting like we know that. We have to start acting like we know the things that we have figured out. Okay? I'm just being honest. And there's a lot of black people who would not be liking what I'm saying here. Let me drive it home a little more so that you understand exactly what I mean. What I'm saying is, there's a lot of traditions in our community that we need to let go of. There's a lot of things we need to stop doing and saying, because those actions and those words were born out of ignorance. Let me take it another step further. For those of you who have just discovered that you are indigenous to this land, but you have brown skin, probably kinky hair, listen, you may be wondering, okay, how do I mean, why is it that some of us are trying to infringe upon the identity of the Jewish community by claiming to be Hebrew and all of that nonsense, when clearly we can just look at our records and see that we're Indian. Listen, and you see me talk about that stuff on my channel all the time, but I'm gonna tell you right now, don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it. At the end of the day, it doesn't even, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. Don't even worry about it. What I would worry about is getting back to your roots. Getting back to your roots. Y'all already know what I think on this channel. But see, the thing is, the reason why we have disagreement between the two camps, this whole, finding out we're indigenous, but then also having this Hebrew camp, the reason why that's even happening, the reason why we have the infighting that we have, is because those of us who have discovered we're indigenous have yet to return to the spirituality of the tribe that we are affiliated with, the tribe that we descend from. You found out what tribe you descend from by blood. You traced your blood. So now you know what tribes are responsible for your existence. And yet you refuse to involve yourself in the spiritual traditions and beliefs of those tribes. You need to explore those things, recover those things, and reclaim those things. And they will teach you. The practices themselves will teach you. The language, go get the language. That's what I'm doing. I am actually in the process, as we speak, of learning the Muskogee language. I'm learning the Muskogee language. I'm already bilingual anyway, so might as well be trilingual. I speak English and Spanish. I might as well add, now that I know who I am, I can't imagine living my whole life only adding Spanish to my linguistic capacity and not adding the actual language of my ancestors. That's unacceptable. That is absolutely unacceptable. When I die, I want my children to tell their children, my grandchildren, that, oh yeah, grandpa, he spoke the language and everything. So that's what I'm working on. I'm returning, and that's what era we're in, you guys. We're in the era of the return. We don't have to argue about who we are. That's not necessary. Don't bother arguing. What you found proof of, follow that. Follow that thread. Keep pulling at that. Because you're all going to arrive at the same conclusions anyway. Some of you are finding proof, so to speak. I don't really believe that anyone's finding proof of anything. I think the burden of proof is large, and the word proof needs to be treated as sacred. So I hesitate to call anything evidence. But what I'm saying is, for those of us who feel like they're finding proof that we are actually of biblical heritage, okay, keep pulling at that thread and investigate that. And for those of you who disagree, but you do feel like you have proven that at least your family is indigenous to this land, okay, just keep investigating that. You're all going to arrive at the same conclusion anyway, because we are one people. Believe it or not. We share a common ancient ancestry. And you're going to find it. You're all just going to find it different ways. You're actually all saying the same thing. We just have to figure out why that is. Why do we have the similarities we have to the biblical people? And why does it seem that we circumstantially fit every conceivable prophecy? Okay, find out. While you working on that, somebody else over here is going to be working on figuring out why it is that they have a bloodline that they can trace by genealogical records directly back to an indigenous tribe, or two indigenous tribes, or three. Perhaps all of their bloodlines are indigenous. Okay, trace that. Everybody just needs to continue tracing. But in all that getting, get understanding. As you continue to seek all this information about where you come from, make sure that every answer you get, you invest in. Invest in the answer that you get. Because I hear a lot of black people now identifying as Cherokee. And don't get me wrong, Cherokee is one of the biggest tribes, and it's one of the biggest tribes for a reason. Not everybody who's Cherokee is Cherokee by blood. Sometimes Cherokee doesn't mean Cherokee. Sometimes it means Yuchi. Sometimes it actually means Creek, because the Cherokee conquered a lot of other tribes near the period of Indian removal. That's early 1800s. A lot of tribes fell by the wayside as a result of the Cherokee. Cherokee subsumed a lot of people. So that's one thing. But regardless of we'll get into that in another video. But the point is, when I hear black people identify as Cherokee, are you aware that as a Cherokee, you're supposed to be waiting on the new moon to appear to mark the beginning of your new month? This is what you're supposed to be looking for. You're supposed to be looking for this. You're supposed to be looking for this. You're supposed to be watching for this. Now, it may not mean much to you, but I'll point out to you that this is the exact same thing that the Hebrews did. You may not have taken note in the Bible if you ever read the Bible, if you took the time to sit down and actually look at it. Count how many times the phrase new moon appears. And pay attention to what it says about the new moon. The new moon was to be treated the same way as the Sabbath. And it begins when the moon appears. And it lasts until the moon appears again. So at nightfall tomorrow, at sunset tomorrow, is when New Moon's Day will be over. This is a holy day, starting right now. It's starting right now. I'm filming this at night. Y'all. I'm not trying to go live right now, but I'm filming this at night. My family is bringing in the new moon. We observe all these holy days. We observe all these holy days. All the holy days that we can substantiate, we observe. And I'm not just talking about what's biblical. I'm talking about what's traditional for our family. Because my wife and I both are Creek Indians. Our children are Creek Indians. You understand me? My paternal mother, my paternal grandmother was Hichiti Indian. My mother's almost my entire maternal lineage is Muskogee Indian. Both of those are Creek. So by blood, I am very Creek, if you understand what I'm trying to say. There are other tribes that contributed to my genetic makeup, obviously, my blood ancestry, but and of course you can see that. Obviously, the channel's called Aniyunwiyah for a reason. Yes, I am also Cherokee. We'll explain why I identify as Aniyunwiyah on the channel in another video, because I am actually far more Creek than Cherokee. But y'all don't understand. If you're not returning to the spiritual beliefs, do not come for anybody else and try to tell them that their way is wrong. Do not try and tell them that the thing they're exploring is wrong. Do not lambaste these other people. I understand lambasting the Black Hebrew Israelites specifically, because sometimes they're ridiculous. At least these loud ones on street corners and stuff. But the actual beliefs behind what they're talking about are not ridiculous. Don't make them feel less than for that. Maybe you need to admit that you just don't know. You haven't done the research to connect these things. Because they are connected. in ways that might be difficult for you to ascertain. But they are connected, I promise you that. So listen, guys. What I'm saying is, you can't say, oh, well, the Indians are not Hebrew. Oh, well, the Hebrews are not Indians, or whatever. You can't do any of that without doing the research yourself. Because the people who are saying this, they know that they sound crazy. So you have to think, they must really have a reason why they're willing to sound crazy talking to me about this. Yeah, it's for real, man. Because I fought tooth and nail for this to be false. I'm a journalist. I was not about to get caught talking nonsense like this. Till I started digging. And I was digging originally to disprove. And I ended up proving all of this by accident. So, and in fact, well, let me not even go into it. I'm not even going to go any further. Anyway, the point is, a lot of you are identifying as as some type of indigenous, bloodline. You're claiming indigenous roots, but you're not investing the time necessary to figure out what your indigenous ancestors believed, what their spiritual practices were. You need to invest in the spirituality that comes with it. Don't just be walking around here talking about great spirit this and great spirit that. If you're not Lakota, for those of you who are neither Lakota nor Osage or any of that over there, why are you even saying that? Isake tu mesi. That's what I said. I talked to the people. I used the name that my ancestors used, the master of breath. All right. Why? Why did the Muskogee language give that title to the transcendent? It's because the transcendent is a personal being, an entity, who actually put sacred wind inside the human being. It's not my fault that same exact thing was described exactly in the Bible. And listen, that's a small tidbit. You might be like, oh, well, that's nothing. Well, you're right. That's nothing compared to the actual evidence. Let me not say evidence, but there are connections. There are receipts. All right? I'm just saying. Invest in the spirituality, because that's just the tip of the iceberg. That is the tip of the iceberg. You don't know what Yahuwah is, and you don't know what Elohim is, and that's why and you don't know what the Great Spirit is. You don't know what the Master of Breath is. You don't understand whatever the thing is in your tribe. Your spirituality, I promise you, is going to lead you. You may not come from the same tribe as me. The language you're reclaiming might not be Muskogee. But I promise you, we're all leading each other. You might be, you might say that your father's paternal lineage was Navajo, and you trying to get into that. I promise you, you and I are going to end up in the same place. What we're tracing ourselves back to, we're tracing ourselves back to the same thing. Don't waste your breath trying to tell me that I'm wrong, or trying to tell that other guy that he's wrong. Whoever you're talking to, that family member, that friend, leave them alone. Let their journey be their journey. Because I promise you, as long as they're seeking, as long as they're researching, as long as they're studying, it's okay if what they're studying is the Bible. That's fine. Because guess what? We're still going to the same place. We're still going to land on the same answers, believe it or not. Your answer and my answer are going to be the same. We are one people. Our origin is the same. I promise you that. I promise you that. And it's not just us who know this. There are plenty of white Americans who tell the truth. They are not all against you. They are not all arguing with you. They are not all trying to tear you down. Some of them just straight up tell the truth. They know what it is. Look at that. That's supposed to be a sign to you. That right there. That new moon. The luminaries are to be signs to each and every one of us. They are signs of things. The eclipse was a sign. This new moon is a sign. Every new moon is a sign. And every Sabbath is supposed to be counted from the new moon. I'm going to do a video about that. I'm going to do a video. I know I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm going to do it. I'm going to explain why I say that. But listen, you talking about being Indian? Okay. If you want to say that you Blackfoot, you need to get into the Blackfoot tradition. You want to say that you Choctaw, you Mississippi Choctaw, Louisiana Choctaw, okay. Get into the Choctaw traditions. Chickasha. Get into the Chickasha traditions. Okay? Do you know what your own, if you are either Choctaw or Chickasha, do you know anything about Aniyunwiyah? Do you know anything about Aniyunwiyah? Do you know where you come from? Do you know your origin story? The tribal, the oral tradition that explains how your tribes, which used to be one, Chickasha and Choctaw used to be one. What is their oral tradition about how they found their tribal land? How they came to it? Do you know anything about that? You over here talking about, oh, that's stupid, all these people talking about they Hebrews. Do you know what they remember about this? Look it up and tell me it doesn't sound very familiar to those of you who grew up in the church. You're going to find out. You're going to find out. Thy rod, thy staff, they comfort me. That's what they followed. A staff, a shepherd's rod, in the hand of a traveler who led them all as one nation that would later split into two. The Choctaw and the Chickasaw. Choctaw, Chickasha. You don't know what that was about? Because you didn't take the time. You found out you was Choctaw and you just decided to leave it at that, basically, right? So you didn't want to take the time to go figure out where you come from and what that was about. Their tribal land, they remember migrating to it. They're not from there. Yeah, you're indigenous, meaning you were first compared to who's here now, but there was also somebody before you. See, when white people came here, we talk about how, oh, they colonized us because we were here first and woo, 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 woo. Well, we weren't here first, though, technically. There was someone here before us, too. And we're going to trace the migration routes in another video. I'm going to do that, too. I'm going to trace the migration routes for you. Just so we can look at it and understand that there has not been a continuous indigenous population from, the beginning of time, whatever that is, to today. That's short-sighted to say. Okay? I'm just showing you what's up. And you don't have to take my word for it, It's just something for you to try on for size. If you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. You don't even have to have a good reason to disagree. You can disagree for even a bad reason because it's not on me. It's your decision. You're on your own journey. Everybody is. I'm helping those with whom my words resonate. That's all. For those of you who are trying to take a pragmatic approach to figuring all of this out, I'm just looking at all the facts. I'm looking at all the information. I'm looking at all the misinformation. There's not nearly as much misinformation as you think there is. There's not nearly as large a conspiracy out here as you think there is. We have a lot of conspiracy theories in our community about what did or did not happen, or what is or is not going on, to try and keep us from this information. Nobody's trying to keep you from this information. That's why you keep finding it. It's public information. You just never looked it up until recently. They're not blocking you. They're not blocking you. Listen, there are some things genuinely being blocked in this world, okay? But your genealogy it can be done, all right? That's something you can just do. Nobody's trying to stop you from that. And you could have done it at any time. You just recently realized you could do it. And by the way, kudos to you for doing it. It did get easier within the last decade or so. Last couple decades, it has become way easier than it used to be. You got these incredible databases like Ancestry.com, Family Search, and all of that to really streamline your process so that you don't have to travel to all these different counties and all these different states as much. But in order for you to get your hands on the records that you know are there, you're still going to end up having to go to these places sometimes. That's okay. That's all right. At least now you're able to streamline the process and figure out what you need to know. And there's a lot of people out here who think that we're doing this just because we want money. Oh, this is just another way for them to get reparations. They're trying to get reparations by being Indians now. They think they're going to get some kind of check by being on a reservation. We can prove them wrong easily, because clearly a lot of us are not even trying to do the things that are necessary to get paid. And a lot of the tribes we're claiming are not tribes that are even federally recognized by the government. So we would not get money for any of that. It doesn't pay to claim to be a Yamasi. That doesn't make any sense. Why would somebody claim to be Yamasi when there's no check for that? You would only claim to be a Yamasi if you are one. Okay? Seriously. Nobody is claiming to be Yamasi unless they are one. Real talk. Real talk. No cap. And actually, let me just get back to the point and close it out. I'm not going to talk any longer, but I just want to make it clear. The reason why you all are arguing is because you refuse to research each other's information, research each other's perspectives. That's what you're not doing. You're not doing it. All right, and that's what you need to do. It's what you need to do. And just and even if you don't want to research someone else's perspective, at least research your own more thoroughly. If you genuinely believe that you are that you descend from Louisiana band Choctaw, okay. First of all, make sure you get all your ducks in a row when it comes to proving that by record, legally. But then also, don't stop there. When you get your paperwork together, don't stop with that. Invest the time in finding out whether or not you really have that spiritual inclination. Because your ancestors left behind spiritual information for you, and that information will find you if you look for it. If you're receptive of it, that information will find you. I promise. I promise that information will find you. You can go get it easily. And when you do, you're going to find, I don't even care which tribe you're in, you're going to find a significant overlap between your practices and those of the Bible. The so-called priests in the Bible, those were not priests. Those were witch doctors. Those were shaman, medicine men. All right? That's what those were. That's what they were. Shaman. And you can't say they weren't, because look at the gory work they were doing. That is not what a Catholic priest does today. That is not what any pastor of any Baptist church does today. That is not what any Eurocentric clergyman, Eurocentric definition of a clergyman would do today. You know that, right? It's something else. It's actually much more, it's It's actually much more in line with the shamanistic practices that you find here and in Australia among the indigenous people of the Americas and Australia and certain tribes in Africa, for reasons that I would hope are obvious, that I will elucidate, in fact, in my next video, my next couple of videos. I'm gonna explain that in my next couple of videos. So just get back to the traditions. Your spiritual practices and traditions are going to inform you. Get deep into it. Don't just do a quick Google search. Don't just do a quick Google search. Get into it. Because I can speak from experience. For anybody who's Cherokee or Muskogee, if you got the bloodlines I got, if you got the clans I got, if you Cherokee or Muskogee, you got no excuse. Because those are Hebraic practices. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not. I'm really not. We're just looking into this. We're just investigating. We're doing the research. We're figuring it out. We're going to talk about these things in the videos to come. Stick with us. Shalosio Yatareo. It's your brother, your cousin, your nephew, young Aniyunwiyah, reporting live on behalf of the Great Spirit, Aye, Asher, Aye. To bring you into your awakening. To remind you of who you are. Do you remember who you are? You remember who you are yet? I'm gonna make sure you remember who you are. I'm gonna make sure.